Hey folks, after I showed the earrings, I had a couple ladies ask me how I made the earrings. I'm going to show you the basic technique for the anchor bar. That is right here. The anchor bar is, if I can do this bar that goes right across here because the tassels are done separate and the pyramid on the top are done separate. So if you can see that, whoops, get a camera. Okay, this row of beads right here, these long skinny ones, the bugle beads, that's called your anchor bar. I'm going to show you how to start with that. And then if you've ever built a little pyramid as a kid with, plastic cups, that's all this part is. Just like building a little pyramid. So if I started out with 10 here, then the next row would be 9, the next one would be 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when you get to the top, once you get to the top bead, that's when you take a lot more beads. I don't know how many I've got there. I'm trying to do this backwards. I think there's 10 up there. You make the loop, and then you run your needle and your thread down this entire side, all the way to your anchor bead, and then that's how you'll start your strands. And then you do the same thing at the bottom. What I'm going to show you how to start this. See, these beads are so small, it's really hard for you to see. But that blue one is the anchor to stop all the other ones from coming off. You just make those tiny little loop at the bottom. I think there's 5 beads on there. And then you run right back up that strand, hop over to your next bugle bead, run straight down through it, add all your beads, get to the bottom, add your little anchor points. The white will probably show you better what I mean about the anchor points. This is the same thing. It runs all the way down. You see how you make this loop with all your extra beads? But you got to use the same amount on each one. So I think there's, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there's 10. Might be 11. But you do the same thing. And then when you're done, like I say, you go up. You only have to come up to your anchor bar right here. Drop your needle down through. Start putting all your beads on. Get to the bottom. Add a couple of these extra ones down at the bottom, and then run up that same strand. So now when you get up here, you're up to your third bugle bead. You run down through the top of that, and you string this one, do the same thing, and then when you get to the bottom, you run right back up, and you move on to the next one. So, but right now I'm just going to show you how to do your anchor band so that it stays secure. Otherwise, when you go to give it a tug, everything's just going to go. So it's super simple. Okay, take your bead. All right, we're going to use these big ones just so that you can see, because there's no way you're going to be able to see me do it with that tiny little seed bead. Sometimes I have to use like a magnifying light just to see, because my eyes will get tired. All right, so it's just simple knot. Just tie a little knot. You see that? It's just a regular knot. I trim off the excess because it tends to get caught up, and then if you get a knot, it's a pain in the butt to try to get that through. Say you happen to run through the thread and then you got a little knot. If you've ever sewn something and got a thread in your knot, or a knot in your thread. I got a knot in my head. Alright, so here's the first one. It's tied, it's anchored, it's not going anywhere. We're going to run this through my... You like my little needle? I made it out of a paper clip, because I don't have a darning needle. Okay, so now when you're looking at it, you're like, okay, that doesn't look the same. Well, of course not. Take your bead, make sure, hold them like so. Okay, make sure that your first one here, line it up, so that your first one is snug. Now you can see the knots right in the middle. What you do is you're going to come into the first one that you tied the knot in. Then you're going to pull that up. Okay. Now you're going to go back through the bead you just put on through the top of that one. Okay. We can double it up. You can do that as many times as you want. Depends on how snug you want it. I like to do it a couple times just for the first two, because then that way it's a good secure anchor. And then back through the top. So essentially all I've done is I've just sewn it together. Pick up another bead. Come on now. wooden beads they catch on the yarn. Oh my goodness, come on now. And we'll just do the same thing. We're just going to take it, fold it up. And then you're going to want to go through the bead right beside it. Can you see that? See the bead I'm going through? Give her a nice little tug. Now, not too hard, because if you pull too hard, your beads will all get all wonky on you because there's too much pressure on them. So now, that's all we're doing is just doing this again. Pick up another bead. Now you want to have enough thread so that when you start your pyramid at the top, that you have enough thread to do that pyramid, because it has to be anchored to this. So to do this and then just to cut, it just leaves a bunch of knots and then they look really messy. Unless you can get your knots trimmed really close and glue them. But I try to use as much as possible from the single strand. So then we go back here. And we're going back through. So it's just a repetition and then back through the first. You can't see what I'm doing. But if you've ever sewn anything, like I said, this is just basically just sewing. I do have a loom, and I'm going to make a loom. I have to use a picture frame to use big beads like this. But the same thing, pull it up, pinch your bead, come back through this one, and then you want to come back through the one you just put on. And you just keep repeating that process till you have it the size that you want. With bugle beads, I like anywhere from 10 to 15 for my earrings. Anything much more than that, and they'll start to curl on you. New bead. But this here will be your anchor bar. Oh, get off fingernail. And it's really hard to do little beads with fingernails. Big beads are even giving me grief right now. And now they're secured together. And that, my dear friends, is your anchor bar. So now we can just build the pyramid, and it's, like I say, how many I got going on here? I got 6. So my next row coming up will be 5. But what you do, you can either string them straight through, but you get a lot of lines. If you don't want to see, or a lot of string, if you don't want to see those, you can hook it through here to secure your bead down. I don't think I have, there we go. So now that we're at the end, I'm going to show you how to start your next row, because these ones aren't going anywhere. So now you take this bead, pull it over a little bit, and you see how I pulled it over? Now it's in between this one and this one. And we're going to go back through the second bead from the end. Now, because this is a different type, or a different, whatchamacallit. These aren't going to sit upright like these. These are supposed to represent bugle beads. These represent whatever other bead that you got. Same thing, then you come through the bottom of the next one. I'll have to use a different bead. But that's what gives you your pattern. But it's best to, if you're making these, it's best to stick to the same type of bead that for the whole project, that is the same diameter. If I'm making like this one, for example, these are all bugle beads because they're the long skinny ones, all right, and the bottom are seed beads. But you can see that this earring is just made with all bugle beads because it's just more convenient, it's easier, and the bottoms there, you know, just gives it that little lacy effect. These ones, it's only bugle beads for your anchor belt, your anchor bar, and the rest are just all tiny seed beads. So if you get them the same size, that's always helpful. These wooden beads are not the same size. They're different. But as you can see, if I keep going like this, going across, I'm going to start getting that effect. Oh, lost my needle again. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It takes practice. It definitely takes some practice. So, oh, I'm on the wrong side. Whoopses. Why? Because I didn't anchor it. You have to anchor it and always come up to the next. This is what happened. You gotta come up your next hole. There we go. Make sure you stay on the same side or you'll have problems. And then there will be my next bead. You can see that. That will be the next bead coming up. And it's a good idea to try to match your thread, a good strong thread, with the color of the beads. That way you're not going to see it. So as you can see, we're going to start building that pyramid to go up. So it's really quite simple. Like I say, it just takes practice. So then the next one will be another brown bead. And then because I have 6, then the last one will be this color again. And it's going to sit sideways. And you just keep repeating until you get to the top. Anyways, hope that was helpful. But just to clarify what I'm doing right here, these beads right here, these 3, would be the beginning of this top row of beads. There's a little top row of seed beads right there on top of the bugles. And then my next row would have the yellows. And then you'd have the black, the yellow, and the orange. And you just keep repeating that process until you get to the top. And then when you get to the top, you just make the loop and sew all down the side and go right through your first bugle and start your strand. I know it's hard to see with that one. So once you got your loop at the top, where your earring attaches to it, if you look closely, you'll see a thread right there because I slipped, so I had to come back through. But you come down all the ones, just the one side. And as you come down to your bugle, then you do your strand. You do your little stopper. You go right back up the same strand. Okay? But you can stop right here at your very next bugle bead. Run your thread all the way down, bead it up. Put your little stopper on the bottom. You don't have to do this many beads at the bottom. You can just do one bead at the bottom, where you just bring it down and then you just skip that one and come up and it'll anchor it. And so there you go. One day, maybe, when I'm sitting here going like this, yeah, that's why I did the big beads, so that you could see them. So this is just the exact same technique that we're gonna do for the tops. So, all right, well, I hope you got that figured out, and if not, just ask me and I'll do another video. I'll try to find some beads that are all the same size, but the bigger the bead, the more string you're gonna see. So if you have tiny little beads and tiny thread and a tiny beading needle, you don't see any of the threads at all. But obviously, I would not be wearing these as, jewelry or earrings. And I just use these like shove a feather in it or something. So thanks for watching. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a fantastic day. All right. Got to go finish some earrings. All right. We'll see you later. Bye.